Hello, welcome to Midwife Dave. It's been a while, there's been a lot going on, it's been very busy, lots of people having babies. So something that's been brought to my attention recently, there's a lot of talk about birth trauma, and we need to sort of clarify who is experiencing birth trauma. Lots of people associate birth trauma with something complicated happening during delivery. Okay, so your delivery, and your labour, okay, you may have had a very different idea of what was going to happen to the reality of what was going to happen, and check out my videos on am I in labour, first stage, second stage, etc. The thing with labour is that it can change at any point. It can start really normally. You may well want to hypnobirth and be doing your breathing and it all goes really well. And without any prior warning and for seemingly no reason at all, it can change very rapidly into a different situation. Now, this can be traumatic, obviously, if it's not what you were expecting. You may have to have an emergency C-section. You may have to have an instrumental delivery. Your labour may slow down and they may want to speed it up with the use of some chemicals and synthetic hormones, which means you'll need to go on a drip. Really, this can all be quite traumatic because you're not expecting it. Obviously, emergency situations, if there's a problem with you or the baby, are very traumatic. Remember though, we are trained to deal with them. And although it's very scary for you and your partner, it's something that we deal with on a regular basis. However, it seems that lots of people are assuming that's the only time that, you can have a birth trauma. But you may be having a low-risk delivery, and you may be in a pool, and you may be in a birth unit, you may be at home, and it may just not go the way that you want. And this can also be very traumatic. A lot is said about birth trauma, and a lot is said that, the language that's used in the delivery can cause a trauma, the fact that it didn't go according to plan, the fact that maybe there's a bit of conflict between you and your midwife, which there shouldn't be. If you feel that you are not getting what you want and you're being asked to go along with a labour in a certain way that you're not comfortable with, you may not want to get in the pool. You may have wanted a low-risk delivery, but you've suddenly got in the pool and thought, oh God, no, I hate it, and want to get out. And if you're working with a midwife who's not keen for you to do that and wants to impress upon you a way of doing it, that's going to cause you a trauma. Bearing in mind, most midwives wouldn't do that. Our job is to work with you. So if you've got something you want to do, we'll go with it as long as it's safe. That's our priority. We've got to keep you and the baby safe. Okay, so trauma, birth trauma, is not restricted to the high-risk situation, the emergency situation. It can happen in a low-risk situation, and a lot of it is to do with being mentally prepared. I take great issue with a lot of people out there who will try and make you believe that you can just breathe a few breaths and your baby will float out of your vagina and there will be no pain at all. I think it's important that you get your head around what it's really going to be like having a baby, whether that is going to be low risk and in the pool, or whether it's going to be in a delivery suite, whether you're going to have a section, whether you're going to have an epidural, or you're going to have nothing at all. There are things you need to know about having a baby that people tend to sort of gloss over because they don't want to frighten you. It's not about being frightened, it's about being mentally prepared so it's not so traumatic. You need to know that there will be blood, there will be urine, there will be poo, there will be vomit, okay? Most likely. Very occasionally, some of you will get away without any of that. Most of you will have one, or if not all of those we've just spoken about. You need to be aware that it is going to hurt like nothing you have ever felt before in your life, but it's okay. It's supposed to feel like that, okay? And we will talk you through that. And again, refer back to the videos on labour and birth. And the other thing you need to know is that you can't just breathe the baby out. Your body is designed, and you will know if you've done this, that when you transition, as I've spoken about before, from the first stage of labour where your cervix is opening up into the second stage where you're going to be pushing, your body will tell you that. Everything in your body makes you want to do this. Okay? That's what you're going to feel like. There is nothing you can do to stop it. And I know it sounds horrible, but the best way to describe it is like when you're desperate to go to the toilet and open your bowels and have a massive poo, and you've just got to get on with it and you can't stop it. It is like that. And I always say to people, if you feel like the baby's coming out of your bum, you're doing it right. If you feel like you're having the biggest poo in the world, you're doing it right. So really important, key things to get your head around, to try and lessen the trauma of birth, is to understand it is like nothing else you've ever been through, okay? It locks into the primeval parts of your brain, and you will make noises and sounds that you never thought possible. You will experience emotions that you thought never would be possible, and this is all part of the process, okay? Expect to experience vomiting. Expect to experience when your waters go, if they haven't gone already, that they're going to go everywhere. They're going to be bloodstained, they might be green or yellow, and you know, that's something that we'll deal with. That's the baby having a poo inside, okay? To a lesser or greater degree, it's something to worry about. You may well poo. Most people do. Let's get that out there straight away, and I've spoken about this before. You cannot push a person out of your vagina without pushing out anything else that is left in your bum, because your vagina sits here and your bum is underneath there. So you've got a big head, and you get this right in the angle coming out of here. It's going to flatten your bum. So anything in there is going to come out. We're used to it. We see it all the time, okay? And if you're with anyone who's you're gonna be embarrassed for that to happen in front of, then don't have them with you when you deliver, okay? There will be a certain amount of blood, yours, okay? There's a little bit anyway when you get your show, that's normal, okay? There's a little bit possibly from tearing, any lacerations or anything. And very occasionally it develops into a bigger bleed. Again, we're trained to deal with that, and that's called a PPH. Now, this can be very traumatic. And just going back to those emergency situations, they can be really shocking because they happen very suddenly, and more so for your partner. So, key things to do: get your head around what's going to happen. There's not going to be rainbows and unicorns and fairy lights, and you may have fairy lights, but the twinkling music and everything, that's lovely, but there is still going to be some heavy duty stuff going on, so be ready for that. And don't be disappointed if your labour changes halfway through, all right? But get your head in the zone, get your partner's head in the zone, okay, before you go in. And don't be afraid. And make sure if anything happens in your labour, in your delivery that you didn't expect, you don't quite understand, then afterwards you ask for a debrief. Really important, and we're quite happy to do that. We have specialist midwives, or you can just talk to the midwife who delivered you, or your community midwife when she comes around to visit you afterwards, okay. The other thing that people talk about in terms of trauma from having a baby is being at home with the baby, and that their whole life has exploded and they feel as if they're losing the plot and they're going mad and life is not the same. Okay, so whether you had a delivery that didn't turn into an emergency, if you had a delivery that went exactly as you anticipated it to, okay, it is quite possible you're still going to feel like that. You have done an amazing thing. You have grown a brand new human being, which takes its toll on you emotionally and physically. And then you've had to get this brand new human being out of your body, either through your vagina or out through the sunroof, as we call it, if you've had a section. Either way, it's not something you do every day. It's not something you're going to experience in a routine day, okay? So it does take a lot to get your head around. Don't expect to ping back after you've had a baby to normal life. When you've had a baby, everything is up in the air. You come back, you don't have any control. That's one of life's great jokes. It makes you think you're in control. You're not. When you've had a baby, you're going to come home after you've had that baby, or wake up the next morning if you've had the baby at home, and there is someone else dictating your daily routine. And there is no routine, and I'm going to do another video about that later on. And it is going to be hard. You're going to have sleep deprivation. You're going to be having the heaviest period in the world, the heaviest boobs that are probably going to hurt, whether you're bottle feeding or breastfeeding, okay? You may be struggling with breastfeeding. There's a whole host of new things going on, and it's a lot to deal with. And yes, if you can get out of the house by 1 o'clock in the afternoon and have managed to actually put on some clothes, let alone do your hair and makeup, and you've managed to get out with the baby in a pushchair or a carrier, you're both covered up, and you've remembered your door keys and your phone, absolutely fantastic. If you can do that in like the first couple of weeks, first few weeks, well done. It doesn't mean that life is never going to return to some semblance of normality. But yes, it's really, really quite a shock to the system when you've got a newborn. And we're going to go into that in more detail in some other videos, but I really just want you to know that whatever type of delivery you're thinking of having and you're planning for, remember it can all change. And remember, you know, it's not a fairy story, and there are going to be some bits that are pretty grim, but you're going to get through it because you're designed to do it, and you're amazing, and hopefully you've got an amazing birthing partner with you and an amazing team of people who are going to help you achieve that. Any questions? Or if you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. Then post some questions on here. I look forward to hearing from you.